Our next storyteller has worked in affordable housing, information technology, nonprofit leadership, and teaching in New York and the Hudson Valley. Deb has been co-writing here a curriculum entitled Dismantling Racism in Our Town, and this is her first storytelling debut. So please welcome Deborah Jacoby-Twigg.
Okay, thank you. I was 7 years old in 1964, and my life in Trout Lake was idyllic. Trout Lake is a little town nestled in the southwest corner of southwest Washington state, in the mountains and the forests of that area. When my family arrived there, it was our fourth move in the first 4 years of my life. But then we stayed there 3 years, and I got to put down roots and own it as my truest home. It was in Trout Lake that I made my first friends, Barbie and Juanetta, sisters who lived 2 doors over. Our house was an old white house, and our school housed 12 grades under one roof. My father preached every Sunday in the church across the street. Nearby, north of town, dominating the landscape, was majestic Mount Adams, snow-capped all year round, solid and reassuring, watching over us all. Trout Lake was perfect. It would be mine forever. It was where I belonged. But then one afternoon, riding home on the school bus, sitting side by side, Barbie turned to me and said, "You're moving away." "What? I'm not going anywhere." "No, you're leaving. My mommy told me so." Her mommy? Confusion and fear flooded my whole being. When the school bus door opened, I ran home all the way and burst through the door crying. "What's this about?" my mother asked, concerned. "Barbie said we're moving," I wailed, knowing she would take me in her arms and say it wasn't so. Well, the look on my mother's face was one of shock and dismay, but not denial. "Go get your brothers," she said quietly. "I want to tell you something all together." What Barbie said was true. Not long after that, we moved away. We drove a full day's drive northeast to Sandpoint, Idaho. I never found out why. Barbie's mother knew my dad had a new job before he got to announce it. I think it had something to do with party telephone lines, which was the only way you could talk on the phone there. But Sandpoint was a different story. Sandpoint was huge. It had 5,000 people. Had paved streets, private phone lines. So suddenly I didn't know everybody anymore, and everybody didn't know everybody else either. I felt lost and alone. And for the first time in my life, I felt singled out too, and not in a good way, for being a preacher's kid. Like sometimes I'd walk up to a group of kids and they'd stop talking and not tell me what was going on. Or somebody'd say a swear word and then they'd apologize to me, but not anybody else. There were 3 boys who actively bullied me. I missed the Trout Lake way, where my identity and inclusion just went without saying. But eventually, I made some good new friends and settled in and adjusted to life in Idaho. 7 years later, when my family moved to South Dakota, I took that in stride. And after high school in South Dakota, I went to college in Illinois. And after graduation from college, I went to New Jersey because my family moved there while I was away. In New Jersey, I went to graduate school and studied housing and city planning. And I decided I would take that knowledge to New York City and try to tackle the crisis of homelessness. "Why homelessness?" asked a guy in a job interview at the city housing department. I didn't know. I hadn't thought about my motivation. "I've kind of felt homeless my whole life," I told him, "so I guess I want to help other people who really are." He hired me, and I moved to New York City, joining 7 million strangers, not a single one of whom knew that I was Reverend Twigg's daughter. Years passed Another degree, a second career, a family, addresses in New York's Hudson Valley and now Lexington. My life felt like a book of unrelated short stories filled with people who were compartmentalized by time and distance. For decades in my dreams at night, they all knew each other. They'd all get together and party and have adventures and couple up and marry each other and even have children. I'd feel so happy and complete. And then I'd wake up. Oh, they're all in separate chapters again, belonging to me, but not to each other. I craved a kind of oneness of belonging. Facebook came along, and suddenly, at warp speed, my dreams became reality. I found my friends from New York and New Jersey, from college in Chicagoland, from high school on the prairie, from grade school and junior high in Idaho. There they all were, in up-to-date photographs with adult children and grandchildren and gray hair, and they were reading and liking each other's posts. Everybody except Barbie and Winetta from Trout Lake. They were harder to find. It took some research, but I found them too eventually. And before I knew it, we were Facebook messaging each other back and forth, bridging the years between us. Studying their photographs, I could see in their aging faces the children I remembered. And reading their words, their personalities came back to me too. Winetta, the quiet, reflective one, she's a massage therapist living not far from Trout Lake. Barbie, the vivacious extrovert, adores her grandchildren and enjoys three-wheel motorcycle outings in Oregon with her husband. It's called a slingshot, she messaged me. If I come back for a visit, she'll give me a ride. They are who they always were, and somehow finding these last long friends gives back to me who I always was too. Inches from my computer sits a framed photograph of our old house in Trout Lake, my home of homes. And next to that, on my computer screen, all the people from my life gather together in one virtual space. I know that lately, Facebook has become a platform of dubious political allegiances that some feel compelled to abandon in protest. Well, I get it, but I can't quit it. I lost so many people for such a long time. I can't give them up now. Belonging is too important. Thank you.